You're listening to the B&H Photography Podcast. For over 40 years, B&H has been the professional source for photography, video, audio, and more. For your favorite gear, news, and reviews, visit us at bnh.com or download the B&H app to your iPhone or Android device. Now here's your host, Alan Weitz.
Greetings and welcome to the B&H Photography Podcast. Today, John Harris and I are excited to welcome photographer Meryl Meisler to the program. This is going to be a great talk, and not just about Meryl's current book, New York Paradise Lost, Bushwick Era Disco, but we're going to be discussing something that many of us know a good deal about, specifically holding down a regular job while keeping a photography practice alive. In Meryl's case, she was a public school art teacher. We're going to be talking about that. We're also going to be talking about Meryl's exhibit at the Center for Photography at Woodstock, about her incredible archive of images of New York City in the 70s, and about studying with Lisette Model, and whatever else comes up. Meryl, welcome to the show.
Thank you, and I'm very happy to be here.
It's really, really great to have you here. For those not familiar with Meryl's work, her work has been exhibited at the Brooklyn Museum, Mass MoCA, the Annenberg Space for Photography, the New York Historical Society, the Whitney Museum of American Art, and in public spaces including Grand Central Terminal, South Street Seaport, and throughout the New York City subway system. Her work is in the permanent collection of the American Jewish Congress, Columbia University, the Islip Art Museum, the Library of Congress, the New York Transit Museum, the Smithsonian Institute, and the University of Iowa, among others. She's published 3 books, including 2021's New York Paradise Lost. Her first 2 books, A Tale of Two Cities and Purgatory and Paradise, both juxtapose images from varied locations and cultures within New York. Meryl is represented by Clampart Art Gallery. So let me ask, do you see photography or even life as a type of a compare and contrast situation? Because this seems to be a common theme in a lot of your work.
Well, good question. Well, for me, I realized photography, it's a form of memoir. For me, photography is an extension of personality and very personal way of seeing. Whether you call it similarities and differences, compare and contrast, ebb and flow, yin and yang, it's a part of life. And certainly my life is one of always I'm striving to find the balance and the joy in all these aspects of life and experiences.
Let me ask you, I was looking at a lot of photographs from the comparing Studio 54 in Bushwick, and it really is contrast. Which one of these situations did you feel more engaged in working in? How did these two situations compare?
Well.
And which one did you feel more comfortable in, too?
Well, in the long term of life, education became my career. 31 years is a really, really long time, so I had to make it comfortable. And it shaped me who I am. Nightlife always intrigues me. Even when the pandemic was officially on a new pause, I went out, but not as much. I'm not a kid anymore. When I was going out in the nightlife, in the clubs and the discos in the 70s and early 80s, I was a young person going out. I wasn't going out to photograph. I was going out to dance, but I brought my camera.
That's interesting.
But I guess I'm going to say in the long term of life, education has a bigger influence on me. Mm-hmm. It's what I dream of. Okay, how about that? I have school dreams more than I have dreams about going out at night. And definitely, I still have dreams about school.
Well, I'm real curious about a lot of this aspect of how, photographers have second lives or 2 jobs or however you want to call it. But did you really start to focus more on your photography, or at least on the archive of photos, after you retired? Or did you find a place for your photography, throughout?
Since I moved to New York City in 1975, I have always stayed involved doing my own work, whatever you want to call that, photographing, exhibiting. I've never stopped. I just now that I'm working full time on it, there's a lot of extra time to focus on getting it out there. But I always exhibited. I had my highs and lows and moments of seconds of work really being out there, getting grants and being in museums and small galleries. So I've always shown my work. And in my teaching, I guess I use that to, we'll talk about more about that, but I did collaborative work with my students. So I kept it going.
Yeah.
I do look at these photographs and they are my childhood. I look at the storefronts. I look at the street scenes. I look at the people in there. And it's the Brooklyn that I grew up in that I remember very clearly. And very little of that exists, especially I look at the storefronts and the names of all of these shops that were just so commonplace back there, part of what Brooklyn is all about. Do you still go out shooting in the streets right now? And if you do, how do you approach it compared to the way you did back then? Is there a difference to it? Do you look for something different? How has your eye changed?
That's, again, another excellent question. I actually think I see very similarly. Like, for example, I was in Bushwick this week, and though I see the changes, I see some of the same things, or I'm attracted to the same things. In terms of street photography, I'm not someone who goes out to photograph. I don't say, oh, it's Thursday, I'm going to walk around and take photographs. I'm someone who carries my camera, and if I see something en route or what I'm doing that catches my eye, that's when I take a photograph. And it's usually something that either looks so typical or familiar or iconic. I see it, like it looks like a reenactment of a Norman Rockwell moment, or it's something I said, literally, I've never seen that before. Those are things I'm attracted to photograph. So, but I kind of see the same. I think my vision is pretty consistent, even before I started, even as a kid. I always had a quirky eye.
Are you still people-centric when you're shooting, or are you looking more at the environment itself? Because your people are integral to your photographs of all of your older stuff. What about now?
I'm very aware of the environment and how people react with their environment, like a stage setting. But my main interest are the actors and actresses. The people, the living, moving things. But I do have some landscapes or cityscapes. But the human beings I find fascinating, and other sentient beings.
Well, one thing that's kind of interesting in your pictures is that when comparing, say, the Studio 54 and the Bushwick pictures, is that the people are the same. You have people going on there, and everyone's got this self-image, either blatantly, crazy, or just, we all have our little things in us, the way we view ourselves. And people in front of your camera let that out, be it people dancing and performing and carrying on and acting insane in Studio 54, or kids out on the street just doing their macho, manly things or whatever they're doing. But, kids all have personalities and they all, ham it up. There's a strong similarity between the two pictures, despite the fact that the environments are polar opposites in every single way.
I am glad that you see that. Yes, I am attracted to people, I guess, exuberating life.
The theatrical side of it.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And even if you look at the Bushwick 80s and 90s pictures, they're very fashionable, the kids.
Oh yeah.
They're impeccable. The environment might look distressed. The kids they're fashion models. They're fantastic. And the people, everyone's very
they put their best foot forward.
Confidence.
Yeah. That's it. There's a confidence level there. That's actually the good word for it. Yeah. No matter where people are, they seem to be comfortable in their skin.
thank you. And those are the people I choose to photograph. But it's also even more recently, just in the past year during times of pandemic, like I said, okay, there are homeless people. There are more people on the street. And I usually don't. I like photograph people who are feeling down and out. I let them have their time and, let them be, or I don't want to feel like I'm taking advantage. But sometimes this year I did ask people, and they usually said yes, because, they had energy flowing from them. They seemed to be okay where they were at the moment. And so, and I usually let people know why I was interested in photographing them. And then even if they say no, it's fine.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah.
So, yes, I look for moments where people seem to be rejoicing in that split second of life that's coming alive.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of the work you're doing, as you mentioned, is kind of in passing or while you're on your way to some other place. I mean, how do you balance that act? Because I think for a lot of street photographers, it's really important that they do engage with their subject and they don't just kind of take a quick shot and run away, or walk away, whatever. But sometimes that's necessary. I mean, how do you find that balance when you want to respect the subject, but also get your photograph and get on to where you need to go?
Well, I'm a nice Jewish girl. I ask permission, It's like I just ask, or I nod, or there's a consciousness. There are some photographs that the person is not aware, but I felt like it was such a strong moment that if I asked, it would have passed by. But
right.
But it's not my style. I'm not judgmental about others, especially street photography. Some people think if it's not, but word incognito is not the word, but just like you're being a fly on the wall. I don't have a strict sense of one way or the other is wrong, or the fact that the person is aware makes it not being street photograph.
Yeah, I guess that debate does happen out there,
that's a non-issue to me. Mm-hmm. It's there's no. I'm not judgmental about it. It's a personal choice. I choose to ask the person's permission. I have consistently since I've started picking up the camera and bringing it with me places.
Is there something other than just being a nice Jewish girl who asked permission? Is there something about your personality or something that you think like a skill or a gift that you might have that has enabled you to do this, especially when you're crossing into different cultures and groups of people? And I understand when you're on a dance floor, maybe, it's a little bit easier because people are on display to some degree, but is it just about that kind of that glance and that eye contact and the body language and showing your camera, or what do you feel about yourself that is the kind of the key?
Wow. Well, I am not a tall person. I'm a short person. I am amazed by eye contact. Like, you can tell if somebody, or whether it's a dog or a rabbit or a deer or a person, you can tell if you could be 10 feet away, 2 feet away, or 50 feet away. You can tell when you make eye contact. It's incredible. You feel it. You're doing an exchange. So I think I like that exchange. It's you are sharing a moment in time. For some reason, some destiny brought you together at this exact moment, and you are seeing eye to eye. And even when you look, I'm someone, I like a single lens reflex, so I'm looking through the view camera. What is that thing called on the top?
The finder, the
eyepiece.
The eyepiece.
But I feel like the person on the other end, or the being on the other end, is actually seeing your eye as well. There's a synapse that's happening. I think it sounds funny to say, but I think I actually am a shy person. And a lot of photographers I know, even though they seem outgoing, they also feel like they're shy. So when I first moved to New York, I would bum cigarettes off people. And since I had enough money to buy my own, I was like, I don't like cigarettes. I was just trying to talk to human beings as a way of approaching them. So in some way, the camera was a way of making a conversation as well. Or if you just have a unusual camera, people will talk to.
Speaking of which, you were going around with a 2 1/4 Exacta, if I'm not mistaken, right?
No, actually, I've used a 2 1/4 Narita Graflex single lens reflex, and I'm back to using it.
Wow.
I love it.
Now,
thank you.
That's interesting because that puts you, again, if you're shy and you're a photographer, the equipment alone will attract people to you. And these are not normal cameras that people are used to seeing. You walk around with something like that, you're creating a conversation at that point in time. A lot of people out of curiosity will come to you and ask you about that or see it with you, right?
Well, casually on the street, I don't have it out. I don't wear a strap. It's in my bag. So I will literally stop if I see somebody and I will ask if I can take their photograph. Then they're surprised that I said, oh, wait, it's going to take a little while. It's a real camera. And so then they might be a little surprised, but they probably think I'm going to take a picture with them with a cell phone. And sometimes if somebody's not an English language speaker and I can tell, I will signal with my fingers like I'm pressing a button. And that's probably an old visual language. I could say,
yes,
I have to. So I'll bring out my phone to get my phone program, and then I'll take out just a minute.
And can I ask a little bit about that? You said you're back to using this camera. I mean, did you kind of go through a whole evolution of cameras, and maybe you can discuss a little bit about what you used over the years and how perhaps using a single lens reflex compared to a 35 millimeter changed your work a bit, or
I would be glad to share my history of cameras. My first camera I ever got was at age 7. My parents got me it's called the Adventurer, and it was a 620 box camera, and I used that photograph family, friends, kids on the street, school trips, same subjects. And then in my teens, and we got an Instamatic, and then when I decided to take a real photography class, when I was first year graduate school, got a Pentax 101. Boy, are they sturdy. SRT 101.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes.
And then as soon as I started very soon, a few months later, I bought my first medium format. I used Narita Graflex SLR with a split image focusing. Love it. And a Vivitar 283 flash. When the 283 broke, I got a 285. And if I was out dancing and carrying my camera and dropped my camera, then I would use my Pentax with color slide film. I learned early on that I prefer a slightly wide angle lens. At first I had a 28 for the 35 millimeter, but I really like the 35. When I started teaching in Bushwick, the year before at another school in Lower East Side, an intruder told me they had a gun, give me your camera, and I gave them my Graflex. So then when I started teaching,
it's a good response, by the way.
I didn't ask to see the gun. I just here it is. No words, just take it away. And so when I started teaching Bushwick the next year, I was not so quick to bring a big camera, and I got one of the first Canon point and shoot cameras, and that's what I carried with me through the most of the time in Bushwick. In the midst of that, I started teaching a photography program in Bushwick in the school, and the school So I sometimes use a Minolta 35 or a Pentax 35 millimeter. Okay. My medium format in the late 1990s started getting arthritic. It would not photograph in cold weather. So, and I was going on a big trip in 2000. I was going to Japan as an educator. And I said, time to get a new camera. And I got a Pentax 6x7. And carry, and that's definitely to me much heavier. The Narita is lightweight compared to that.
I think the body's like 3.5 pounds before the prism.
Yeah, and
a no lens.
Definitely okay. But I've also had a myriad of digital cameras. Let's say I have the Canon series. And during the pandemic, because I went away and left I went upstate and I didn't know I was going to go for a long time. I left my cameras in the city. So I have a Fuji, it's a little Fuji X series, but I'm back to using my and also my Narita was out of commission. Like I said, it was arthritic and then no one knew how to fix it. And then thank you, B&H, someone in your secondhand department gave me the name of panoramic camera. And it was like 2 blocks from my house, and they fixed my camera. So I'm I'm very happy back and reunited with my Narita.
Oh, that's great. So, I guess the best follow-up or the only follow-up is now that you're back to using that, and all the cameras used in between, especially the digital, did it change the way you photograph at all, or do you think it did?
Okay, bottom line, and I didn't make this up, the best camera you have is the one that you're carrying with you.
Right.
That's it. That's the bottom line. Whatever it is, if you're catching with your phone, you're catching it with a snapshot, catching it with I did try 4x5 for a while, but it wasn't me. I'm more spontaneous.
Okay.
That's the best thing you have. And a great image is a great image.
Right. But let's say, for example, even with like a digital camera or a 5D or a point and shoot where, in general, you can operate them faster and to some degree, they're even designed to be operated faster. But did you still maintain, your pattern of speaking with somebody and taking the camera out and engaging a bit? Or did you find that the gear itself even might have changed the way you worked?
Well, I'm the same personality. So yes, I'm the same consistent person, but I do feel, it's funny, I feel much more confident using my medium format with the split image. I love the split image. I feel like I know what I'm going to get. And I'm probably the only person who has trouble focusing with autofocus. I'm better off. I know it's in focus. I can see it. Right then and there coming together. And so I like it. And I feel like I'll be heartbroken if the people who they may actually move to Florida, these people, and I bought a backup just in case. But then I'll adapt, I'll fix the Pentax. I'll do whatever it takes. But I feel like it sees how I see.
I think that's a really good point. I think just feeling the confidence that whatever gear that you're comfortable with gives you is really the most important aspect. I know that I have older cameras that I think, like you said, you just feel like you see better through them. And if that's what works for you, all the better. For a lot of us who have day jobs or other jobs besides our photography, even if we're fully engaged with our photography, was it hard? Was it hard to kind of, go back at the end of the day after a hard day of teaching, or even if you're working with kids and you're talking photography, then to go back and focus on your own work?
The simple answer is, of course, it's hard. Of course, it changed what you photographed or where you were going. I no longer had the time to work in the darkroom, so I switched to color slide film. In terms of photographing during the school day, the most things I might want to photograph would not be the behavior I wanted in my classroom. So I use it as behavior modification, photographing kids at work, people working nicely. I didn't photograph all the time. Most of the time, you're in charge of just special occasions. I mean, you're teaching, you're working, or any job. You have to be at your job. I mean, even when I was working in a period where I was hostessing at go-go bars. I mean, but occasionally brought my camera. So when you're not photographing, you're seeing all the time. So no matter what, you're training your eye. You're appreciating what is it that strikes you, or what is that fascinates you. You're looking. If you're lucky, if other of us who have our vision, we are very lucky to have vision, and you're always looking. I'm not me. I remember the things I don't photograph as much as I photograph, the things you miss as much as the ones you catch. So yes, it of course it affected.
And were you thinking? I mean, now that your books have come out, and we see that they have this degree of compare and contrast. Were you thinking along those lines at the time? I mean, when you were making these images, or this is all part of your world, and you really didn't kind of separate them into these categories necessarily?
I did not. I was not fully aware. It came together in a funny way. I had an epiphany at a drag burlesque bar in Bushwick in 2013. I was invited by a filmmaker named John Stefan Sauver, who started a club in Bushwick called Bazaar, and he liked my work and he wanted to show it. And I just went there one night, and the place was hopping. There was people were dancing. It was full. There was a disco ball overhead. I go into the ladies' room, or the bathroom, the restroom, and I'm fixing my lipstick, and the disco ball's overhead, and I had an epiphany, and right then and there, that my worlds of disco and Bushwick collided and came together, because the night of the blackout, when the whole in 77, I was really headed to a private party at Studio 54. But of course, it ended up being a blackout. So Studio 54 was closed. And the next day, I and much of the world heard about this place called Bushwick, which didn't sound like someplace I'd ever want to go to. I never even thought of it. It just sounded like a very distressed neighborhood. And hello, 4 years later, I found myself working there full time. And just hit me that these two worlds were the same, and they were part of my story, and I that's why I had the idea that the work belonged together, and I had never shown the Bushwick work. I'd never shown the disco work before.
Oh, really? Huh. That's interesting. I would think that work would have garnered attention, simply by the nature of it earlier. That's surprising. Was there ever a moment back then when you were deciding to take this as a full-time job, or even as a part-time job, that it would ultimately kind of interfere with your photography and the work that you were hoping to do, or not? I mean, or was it a job and you wanted that job and it was related to photography, so no brainer? Or
it was a tremendous conflict for me to take a full-time job. It was I was making a huge, for me, a huge decision and sacrifice, because obviously I had a lot of other interests. I was working as a freelance illustrator. The only time I can draw very well, and I did freelance illustration work, but my bills were more steady than the checks coming in the mail. And I did, in 1978 and 79, the only time I was ever employed as a photographer, I was a CETA, Comprehensive Employment Training Act, like the WPA of the 70s. I was hired as a documentary photographer for the American Jewish Congress. And during my time there, you needed to do volunteer work or community work. I chose to teach, because to teach photography to kids and to homebound adults, because even though my background and my degree was in art education, I was scared to teach, and I wanted to build my confidence, and that's helped me So job training work.
Yeah.
I gave back to society, but it was a tremendous conflict. And for the first few years, I was like, okay, I'm going to learn scenic painting, or like we
Mm.
do this, do that. And finally, it took a couple of years, and like I got it. It was funny, like when you get tenured, it's almost like you've earned it. Like all of a sudden I was comfortable doing it. It's like, this is what I'm doing, and I'm okay with it. And I'll just, not just, I mean, I was always, yeah, I would have been happy being independently wealthy, but I wasn't. And this is a way that I've felt challenged and inspired and always learning. You're never bored being a teacher.
That's
Uh,
for sure.
how to support myself and be part of the world.
All right, we are going to take a short break at this point in time. We come back more with Meryl Meisler and photographs of Bushwick and other places, 70s, 80s, 90s, and today. Stay tuned.
We hope you're enjoying this edition of the B&H Photography Podcast. The best way to support the show is by subscribing on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. For links to gear and more information on today's guests, check out the show notes in your podcast app or visit our homepage on the B&H Explorer website and join the B&H Photography Podcast Facebook group. And now, back to the show.
Okay, we are back with Meryl Meisler. Meryl, we want to go back to your book here. You had said that your latest book, New York Paradise Lost, Bushwick Era Disco, that it's going to be bigger, badder, and bolder and make your first book seem like fairy tales. How'd that work out? And what did you mean by that?
Well, I do believe that I met my aim. Okay. It's the same. First, I'd like to say that my life partner, Patricia O'Brien, has designed all my books, but it's the same size in its terms of 8.5 by 11, but it is more pages. This one has 272 pages. It's designed so that the images bleed to the edges, so they actually visually it's larger. The photographs of the nightlife, I go to much edgier places, things that I didn't even dare to show before I dared to show. There's a few I held back, but it definitely takes you to edgier moments. And in this book as well, someplace else is I take you inside the classroom, inside school life itself, and that is actually my largest unseen body of work. 36 years inside of schools, from an insider's point of view. May I live that long to get that all out there. Okay, in terms of, I am a printer's daughter, and Patricia and I were not happy with how the black and whites looked as much in the first two books, and realized this one needed to be duotone. The tonality is better. I feel like the storytelling is much stronger. It reads from left to right, front to back, back to front. When you lift up the pages, not just side by side how the pages go, but how one sequence goes to the next. Or if you pick up one center page, the page to the left and the page to the right, they relate. I think you can look at it upside down and it tells a story. It's like a Rubik's Cube, and that conveys a narrative or brings the reader on an adventure, no matter how you approach it. I'm very proud of it. No matter what, it's very helpful to have feedback from other eyes. You look at it's like having an exhibit. It's great to have a curator. You look at your own work so much. And working on the dummy for this book, when we talked about Big, Bad, and Bolder, because this was a big, a big commitment to doing it's a big commitment doing a book.
Yeah.
It's like this real, since I did know several curators who were familiar with my work, I showed them the dummy and process, and this will probably get edited out of B&H, but I knew I was showing much edgier work. And I went and I spoke very plainly. Some of the photographs, I want to make sure it's photography. It's not pornography. It's photography. There's not just sensational. It's history. It's images. It's storytelling. And they had to pass that test. But it's really helpful. I mean, it's your book. When you're playing it, it's your book. And you have to do the initial work, but having feedback is fantastic. And I feel very privileged to have worked with someone who's been a film director and happens to know and love my work. Very fortunate.
I think it's important for anybody who's in the creative arts to have somebody edit or write shotgun at some point in time, because I think we all will sometimes get tied up in an image that we have a great story, because maybe it was a great story to take the picture, or there were difficulties or technical things, and just it's amazing that the picture even came out and actually occurred. But it doesn't necessarily mean it's a good picture.
Mm-hmm.
And quite often, I think, I think we're all guilty of this in some ways. I hate to use the word guilt, but it is, maybe I don't have a better word for that. But we get engaged and married to certain images that we just think are amazing. And again, it's the story that's amazing behind it, but the picture itself is like, And you need somebody to be able to tell you that sometimes, somebody whose opinion you respect. But I think anybody who's working on a project, a series, especially it's going to be for publication or for show, definitely have somebody else who you respect, who knows about the subject, who understands imaging, to take a look through it and listen to their opinions. You don't have to necessarily take them, but listen to it and give it some thought, because quite often an outsider will give you a little bit of a perspective that you'll never have yourself, and often it's the right idea.
I totally agree with you. Yes, you could be too married, too personal to a moment, but then I did some images. I said, no, this belongs in this cafeteria scene. This is such a teacher picture. You cannot believe that. And like some things I defended with my life.
And in those cases, you stick with your.
I was right.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's if you are fortunate enough to have someone whom you respect, who respects you and understands where you're coming from and your background and where you want to go.
Mm-hmm. Use it.
Communicate with them, show them your work, trust it.
Yeah.
And get feedback. And hey, it's fun learning with somebody else.
Yeah.
And they have things to teach you.
Can you talk a little bit about your archive, if you want to call it that? And do you call it that? I mean, do you maintain your photos that you haven't shown publicly yet in an organized fashion? How much work is there? And how much of your time now is spent to kind of going back and looking at images you haven't seen in a while?
Well, yes. When you say going back, it's some things I'm seeing for the first time myself. Most things I'm seeing for the first time. My negatives are organized. They used to be in loose leaf binders. I've switched to those archival plastic binders. Fortunately, right from the beginning, I think it was the photographer Ken Hyman I met. And he said that he kept his work in, sequential order and divided by subject, like a certain shoot. It's in 3-ring binders in sequential order. And I always wrote like the month, the year, the month, sometimes a day, what number in the sequence they are. If it's like, say one certain party, it's like 5A, 5B, 5C. I'm very glad that I wrote on my negative pages where I was, important events, because you think you're going to remember, you don't remember. And so I can actually find things quite well through my negatives. just a little side, if anyone's working on a book project, what I learned a mistake to do if you're scanning, never remove like, oh, I'm just going to take out that page and scan it and put it back. That's how you lose things. That's how I lost. Where are those pictures of the gang members in the South Bronx? I lost it somewhere. So carry your whole binder with you. So my negatives are very sequential, and I have I could go up and count them if I wanted to, but I have to leave my seat here. My slides, and I'm back to using the same system, and it works for me. And my slides are in boxes, and on the boxes I did label the year, the month, the day if it was specific, the subject.
And do you enjoy the process? I mean, do you enjoy the process of going through photos from years ago, or is it somewhat tedious?
I find it fascinating. I look at it like I'm an outsider looking at my work, like that I'm the person, like I'm like the person who discovered Vivian Maier, like I'm discovering this young woman named Meryl Meisler, and I'm like, oh my God, look at this. I can look at it. I think I needed to do that. I need to step out of myself and go with fresh eyes and or first eyes and look at it and say, you know what is here? And looking at them again and again and again. When you look at your work, you learn a lot about it. And like when you're in the subway, you see somebody and they're reading the Bible, or they're reading the Torah or the Quran, and they're underlining things if they're permitted to write in their sacred books. They're rereading a story and you find new interpretations. And I've had the opportunity, since I've been focusing on looking at my work, really looking at it for the first time practically, and for start going through some of the same negative binders of negatives for different topics or different exhibits, and discovering new images that I'm first starting to understand is their strength. So I'm enjoying the process.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Getting to know you.
Getting to know you. We could I could talk about this forever, but this idea of looking back at images that you and we did touch on it a little bit, but how images that you made of in your head, those were the images that stood out, that were the good images from that era or that event or that moment. But then when you look back at them, you may find better ones. You may find ones that really, with that perspective of time, that really fit the bill better. It can be a beautiful process. Can I ask a bit about then, while we're here and we're getting close to a little bit over an hour, can I ask a little bit about the show that's going up in Woodstock? Because good news that it's been extended to September 15th. So anyone in the Hudson Valley and New York area can get up there to see the work. And this is from the Paradise Lost series, but did you edit down? It's not all the images from the book, clearly. How was that process and that curation?
Thank you. I had the first show of New York Paradise Lost, Disco Era Bushwick. Very fortunate to have two solo shows on this subject that overlapped. The first one was at Clamp Art Gallery, which represents my work, and Brian Clamp, the gallerist, he curated that show.
Okay.
Which, like I said, I love being curated.
Yeah.
And then at the Center of Photography at Woodstock, the same idea, but a total, and Hannah Frieser, the director, she curated that show. They're like very different exhibits. It's like mixed, the way they were installed, the way you walk through them, the images they chose, the sequencing, very different. And the show at Center Photography Woodstock also includes work from my book Sassy 70s, showing my early self-portraits and portraits of my family. It's a tremendous honor and joy to see it up. It's a different experience.
The pictures you have of your family and some of those portraits, I just blew me away. That just brought me back to an era that I forgot about. That is so visually familiar to me. It's
Ah,
seriously, that is a whole genre of imagery and furnishings and realities. I had a chuckle because I saw so much of my own family in those pictures. I really did.
thank you. A decor.
I forgot all about plastic slip covers on couches. I forgot all about those. But
Yeah. Patterns. Well, think about it. It's like it's a. You probably sounds like you're a baby boomer like me.
we're the
and
same
your
age.
parents-
We're on the
yes.
same. We're on the same clock. Yeah.
and your parents probably were first generation Americans who grew up very poor.
Yeah.
And when they got a chance to own a home of their own, or just even have their own apartment, they made it their own. They decorated.
Yeah.
They're really
Yeah.
decorative.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what brought out the series when I was at University of Wisconsin taking a photography class, and I went home, photographed just people I knew, my family and friends and the backgrounds, and I made a contact sheet, and the professor said, "What is this?" I said, "What do you mean, what is this? What are these homes? What do they look like? What's going on here?" I said, "This is where I come from. Everyone's home looks like this." I was like, I didn't know it was different. This is just the way it was.
You studied with Lisette Model back in the day, and can you talk about that at all? I mean, was that a close relationship, or was she just one teacher of many? And how did that kind of influence your work at all?
When I received my master's from University of Wisconsin, I decided to come back to New York. And the first time I ever lived in New York City. I never lived in New York. My first 2 years were in the Bronx, but I moved in with a distant cousin, sublet a room. I came with the intention of wanting to study with Lisette Model because I was admired of her work, inspired by Dion Arbus. And I went and showed her a portfolio. You had to show a portfolio to get into her class. And I showed a portfolio of my Long Island photographs, and she just loved them. And I felt honored to be I only took one class with her. I'm not going to make it, but it was not to say it's enough, but it set me in the direction. Like it was about the images. It was about the people. It was about the story. It wasn't about the lighting. It wasn't about the equipment. Had nothing. It was the image themselves were important, and she was very positive and encouraging of my work, and just to go forth, just go forth with what you're going. That this was the direction to go, and not even. I took many lighting classes over my years, and it's like, you know what? This is how I like to do it, and more immediate, and also the appreciation of the snapshot aesthetic. And there were several other people, and I remember Suzanne Opton was in the class.
Mm-hmm.
I remember her, going up and putting the work on the wall and reading the photographs, that you could read them and tell histories and culture and stories about them. That was most important. The truth in them was important. And I remember she would wear all black, her dress, black every day, every class. And she would have one little square of color on her. And I finally had the nerve to ask her, what was that? She said, my husband's a painter, and he put that color, chose to color every day.
Huh.
And I've taken classes with other people, Lisette Model, and of course, my first professor at Wisconsin, Cavalier Ketchum, were most influential. And as a teacher, I have to always thank my teachers, because
That's a great story.
They put you in a course or help you see what you have and appreciate it. And thankfully I had to print things to bring every week to show a class because those are my vintage prints. And at the time I had trouble editing. I thought I had trouble editing, but yet now curators seeing them, it's like, the things that I did pick out, they were right on. They are strong images. I knew it. I was insecure about it, but yet I picked. They were on the money, or they're on target, and however I printed them, you know what? They held up, and they are an aesthetic that I like, and I want to continue to achieve as a goal that you do have this aesthetic, but sometimes it takes time to appreciate and understand.
Some late breaking news here, more or less. Meryl's proposal of Paradise Lost and Found Bushwick was selected to be part of Photoville's 10th anniversary show, which runs from September 18th to December 1st here in New York City. And what's interesting is that Meryl, as we know, has been photographing in Bushwick in the 80s and 90s. And the photographs that she took back in PS 291 Schoolyard are going to be exhibited on the schoolyard fence. So you're going to see 11 years of pictures that Meryl took at this location back in the day in the same place they were taken. And that's kind of cool to have a show of your photographs exhibited exactly where they were taken. I don't know how many people can claim that. A little bit of feedback on this one?
Oh, I am so excited. To me, this is like it's biblical. 40 years later, they're going to be exhibited on all the photographs were taken like in the school, on the fence, in the schoolyard, in the blocks going around it. And the curator is going to be the current principal of the school. And this just came through like 2 days ago.
That is so cool.
Oh, wow.
It's so exciting. I'm felling.
How many pictures do you plan on exhibiting?
It's going to be 20 huge photographs, as biggest Photoville will print them.
Wow, that
on the fence, and it'll circle the fence between the school on Palmetto Street and leading up into the adjacent firehouse, the House of Pain, and that's on 231 Palmetto Street at the same time, and it's going to actually open. When it's Bushwick Open Studios, at the same time, I'm going to be having a two-person exhibit about Bushwick then, my Bushwick then, and Bushwick more recently, photographed by Raphael Fuchs. Heavens be willing, I'm having my first solo European exhibit in October and November, if the pandemic does not close us down again. At Photo Gallery Friedrichshain in Berlin.
Wow. I got to ask you, we were talking about editing before, and now you have a really good exhibit coming up with Photoville, and you have zillions of photographs, and now you have to narrow it down, not to 100 or 200, but to 20 photographs. Have you started this yet? And what kind of criteria are you using? Because now you really got to cut it down. 20 pictures out of all of this to sum up what you did. That's tough.
Photoville said yes to my project, and I could show it in Brooklyn Bridge Park, but the place I dreamed about doing it is in Bushwick and in a public setting that people who don't normally go to a gallery would go to, just there on the street. To me, it was the dream spot, and even better than a local park, to do it at the school. And she wrote back the next day, interested, but I needed to, in order to not just write a letter, I sent samples, photographs. So from my collection, I narrowed it down to say, I think I sent her 50 images of that I thought, as a person who worked in that building and as an educator, that she could relate to. And oh boy, did she get it. And in fact, some people on staff said, oh, I know that kid, or that's my nephew, that they were familiar with the work. So I narrowed it down to maybe I'd have to look at it. Maybe it's somewhere between 40 and 50 pictures to give an idea. And then when we met in person just 2 days ago, and said yes, we went through images together, and she picked ideas for what she would like. And this is Principal Miss Janice Bruce. And I went with Laura Romanos from Photoville to talk. And at first, Photoville, the director of Photoville was going to curate it. And afterwards said, why don't we have Miss Bruce curate the show? Because she obviously had a real eye.
Mm-hmm.
And so now, from what we pre-selected in our meeting 2 days ago, 30 pictures, now we'll cut down from there to 20. And she's going to select the images that she wants on her fence. I mean, she's making a big commitment, putting work out there.
That's great.
And it could stay up a year. It's like at least till December. It might stay up longer. And she'll have the final 20 selection, and I'm going to do this. And I said, I'll do the sequencing. We'll talk back and forth. So editing is...
That's incredible.
It's all in the editing. Editing is really... Hey, everyone does it. Come on. If you're a writer, you edit. People who are writers, they have editors helping them. Having a curator is really big.
Most of us even edit before we say anything. Most of us, not all of us. But.
Even on a podcast,
even a podcast.
Sure.
That's good. Well, Meryl, I want to just, before we sign off, I just want to thank you again for joining us and offer congratulations on especially the Photoville thing. I mean, all the work that is coming out now, congratulations. And this Photoville just sounds like a dream come true. And to have it at your school is pretty impressive.
Meryl, it's been wonderful talking to you, especially the topic is Brooklyn. How bad can things be, right? Okay, that's always a good topic to talk about. Brings me back home. If our listeners would like to catch up on your work, websites, Instagram, where can they go to?
Well, please go to merylmeisler.com, clampart.com. To buy my books, please support independent bookstores. Two bookstores that have been just wonderful to me is the Strand in New York City and the Golden Notebook in Woodstock. Every other independent bookstore, reach out. I want to be carried by you. Yes, the Brooklyn Museum carries my books.
Good.
It's really great. Instagram, I'm the same everywhere. Meryl Meisler, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Meryl Meisler, MERYL
And all of this will be in the show notes as always. So again, all of these links will be there. We strongly urge you to catch up on Meryl's work. It's a lot of fun, and it's nice to see that somebody can bust it for a long time and actually get a payoff at some point down the line, and a nice one at this. It's got to be extremely gratifying to be able to get to this point. A lot of people don't. A lot of people take a lot of pictures and produce amazing work and never really get the recognition that they should. And it's really terrific that you are in fact getting, your recognition while you're still alive, no less.
Yay! Yes, that's a goal. Everyone, just staying well and be alive, and don't throw away your work. And just stay. Your number one goal is health and well-being comes first, and then and don't throw it away. Just keep it organized and become members of other artistic communities. I'd like to give a plug out to Professional Women Photographers, pwponline.org. I'm a longtime member of it. I think I would have. They help. Having people understand your passion or mania keeps you from quitting.
Yep. And 90% of life is just showing up. So there you go.
There you go.
Be there.
Yes.
Meryl, absolutely wonderful having you here. And we'll be catching up with you and seeing what else you'll be up to. In the meantime, if you enjoy listening to the B&H Photography Podcast and you're not yet a subscriber, head on over to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or wherever you snag your favorite shows and type in B&H Photography Podcast, hit enter, and you'll be the first on your block to queue up the latest episode of our show when it goes live. And if you are already a subscriber, leave a nice comment. And you can also find us on the B&H Explorer website and on the B&H Photography Podcast Facebook group page. All that said, my name is Alan Weitz, and on behalf of John Harris and Jason Tables, thank you oh so much for tuning in today.